And we are living out louder. I am your host, Dave Vargas, emanating from New Bedford, Massachusetts. This is a show about healing, awakening, creating, and transforming. I have with me this week a spiritual thought leader, author of the book, Unleash Your Light, and the host of her own weekly podcast of the same name, Li Cara. Welcome.
Hello, Dave. Hello to all of Dave's lovely viewers. I'm very grateful to be here today.
Yes, I was so happy that you joined with me. Those that may not know, I was a guest on your show, so I did want to return the favor on that.
Thank you.
It is so very welcome. And so we are, recording this. We had some live issues, so this is, but we were having a great discussion. And this is my second season of the podcast. And we were talking, we're in a time with a lot of different conflicting, false information, misinformation, lots of fear going around. And this seems like the perfect time of your very popular book, Unleash Your Light. And how do we wade ourselves through all of this with what's going on?
Yeah, Dave and I were talking about how there's so many versions of reality right now. And I've done several shows about this, like jumping timelines and the duality of do-gooding and being in a fear-based catalyst, because that's where we are right now. We are in a fear-based catalyst event. And the reaction to fear is fight or flight. And so some people react to that. They would say flight, which some people feel wearing a mask or listening to the news would be considered a flight response, a scared response. And people would say, I would say that the opposite, refusing to and being angry about it, that would be a fight response to fear, a fear of being controlled, a fear of being told what to do, a fear of being unheard, right? Because when we cover our mouths, it's symbolic for not being heard or not speaking, right? So being in this fear-based event, I say a lot that I don't care which side of it you're on. I have my own opinions, and that's exactly what they are. They are my version of reality. Yes. But what matters, what we're all sharing, is the experience of that fear. So as we move forward, we can't control what's going on out there. We can't control what's going on around us. What we can control is our reaction to it and our reaction to each other. And so some people would say, well, I'm standing up and I'm educating. But how are you doing that? Are you calling the person who disagrees with you names? Are you speaking behind their back and mocking them for being sheep? In either direction, are you being mean? Are you cutting ties? Are you creating more unity with your response, or are you creating division? And that's something that each one of us has to ask ourselves, no matter which side of reality we tend to fall down into,
Yes, that is very important. It's because I speak of that a lot. And it doesn't mean to be quiet and not say anything. Absolutely, to be your most authentic self is sharing your loving truth, is how I like to put it, the truth of who you are. But your loving truth is the truth of who you are with kindness and compassion.
Right. You are not the story that you are angry about.
Right.
You are not the injustices going on in the world. If you express yourself as such, then you are using empathy in a way to wield a weapon against those who may stand against that injustice that you are feeling, rather than using your empathy to be understanding of the situation, to shine your light of forgiveness and understanding and empathy in this situation, I feel that so many of us in this spiritual journey have lost our connection with forgiveness. And I see many, many, many of my spiritual brothers and sisters saying, there is no forgiveness for that. There is no forgiveness for that.
Yeah.
When we choose that, and it is a choice to decide not to embrace forgiveness. And remember, forgiveness is never saying what happened is okay. Forgiveness is never saying that the injustices are okay, that bombings and shootings and all of that is okay. But what we have to remember is that all of these things are being perpetrated by humans, by people that are carrying a piece of divine within them. And right or wrong, the choices that they are making are their choices, right? So just like in our families, when somebody has hurt us, if we continue to not forgive them, they don't care. We are the ones who are hurt by carrying that. And so when we look out at the world and we're doing the same thing, refusing to use that forgiveness, we don't have to agree with how they're doing it. We don't have to condone what they're doing, but we do have to understand that there's still a piece of divine energy, unconditional love, riding around with that damaged human, riding around on that journey with them. And so we have to use our empathy to be able to connect with that piece of that person, of that human, that spiritual connection in there through all of these things. And whether it's just the guy that's disagreeing with you and calling you names, or whether it's the person who's perpetrating crimes on children or shooters, we still have to remember that every single entity on this planet is basically a piece of God that we all share. God, the light, call it Fred, and you know it, I don't care. I'm not big on semantics.
No, right.
Experiencing human life, you know, and it's difficult. It is not easy to find forgiveness for that. But none of being a light worker, none of the awakening is necessarily easy. If it was all easy, then what's the point, right? I mean, that's what the human experience is.
Yes. And it was, as you know, as you're saying, you know, unleash your light. It's seeing the light in all the, you know, past all the bodies. And that, you know, a big misconception I feel about forgiveness is that we feel like it's a sacrifice, or that we're pardoning somebody and that we're going to have less of something if we give it away.
Yes.
And with forgiveness, it's the release of, you know, the release and, you know, the salvation and bringing us all together. Because whoever I'm making out as the bad guy, I'm imprisoning both of us.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, forgiveness is never about the other person. It's always about us.
Right.
Forgiving them is for me. It's not for them, because most likely they don't care whether I forgive them or not, because they probably think they're doing exactly the right thing. They probably feel like they're completely justified in whatever they are doing, whether it's on a small scale as someone in your family or whether it's on a large scale. Every villain in every movie thinks they're saving the world. Yeah. When they're destroying half the population like Thanos, or when they're creating vaccines that may save 500 million but kill 100,000. Every person who thinks they're doing good, whether it's not always received as good by those of us watching it, and they don't care about our forgiveness. Us holding a grudge about them hurts us. What is that Buddha phrase about holding a hot coal? It only burns yourself, right? So that holding on to that, and that is like, that's one of the steps in Unleash Your Light, is forgiving others and forgiving yourself. And it is not an easy thing. And like you said, it doesn't mean that you're giving them a pass. It doesn't mean they're getting away with it. It may look to your eye like they're getting away with it, but we don't know what hell people live in their minds. And we don't know what karma or what reflection they are going to see in the world because of their stance. We need to be worried about our part in it. And my part in not forgiving them means that I'm allowing them to continue to hurt me. All pain happens all the time. All time happens all the time. And so if it still hurts when you think about it, then they're still doing that to you every moment of every day, and you are being hurt by it.
Yes.
And so if you don't forgive them, you're still having that happen to you over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. It is the, as many have said, it's the horseshoe effect, where both sides are mimicking each other. It's the same thing. It's the same pointing of the finger.
Reflection. Yeah, they're a reflection of us.
Yes. And it goes with, and if you feel that strongly, you want to share your loving truth, I feel, then do something constructive and powerful. And, you know, and doing copy and paste and photo memes are not the way to do it, and yelling and, you know,
Yeah.
a Facebook post helps, but it's not changing the world. If you feel very strongly about it, you know, make the rallies, make a show, write the book, do whatever it is to use this. And as you said, you know, do performing alchemy.
Yes. Yes. This is part of what I talk about in the forgiveness process, and really in all of this. If you have someone, because a lot of times someone that we need to forgive is gone, or we can't talk to them anymore, either because they've transitioned or because they're across the country. We are connected to every other living creature on this planet. We are connected to them because we're all connected to the light, to God, to Gaia, whatever the heck you like to call the source energy. I always say it doesn't matter what you call it Fred, it doesn't really care.
Right.
So we're all connected through that, like one big telephone, like the old-fashioned operators, right? So we're all connected into that one telephone board. So you can have a conversation with that person's higher self anytime you are ready to speak to them. Anytime that you are ready to apologize to them or to receive an apology from them, because the higher selves already know what the purpose of your earthly dispute is. They already get what is going on. They are a part of it. They are in on the journey. They kind of already have the script to the movie we're living out, and we are getting our lines each moment by moment. It's like we're handed the script just enough to do the scene for that day. Like one of these, like Lost, one of these shows, or Game of Thrones, where they don't want to leak the ending, you know what I'm saying? But
yes.
The producers, they have all the scripts. So if you talk to the higher self, not only are you able to get some peace yourself, but it will affect the other person. So in these situations, even on Facebook, even when you're having these arguments with just a round profile picture that you don't even know that person, you can send loving energy to that. You can watch the news and send loving energy, send peace, send healing, send solution energy, just by connecting to that divine. If you need to take a minute to meditate or to connect or to dance around your living room, however you connect with that divine light, do it. And it will help you to navigate these times. I am a big proponent of, if you are a light worker, we should be on the front lines of every bad thing that's happening in this world. And I know that a lot of light workers believe, don't watch the news, it's all negative, it's all bad energy, I don't want that juju in my space. They cut toxic people out, they don't deal with this, they don't deal with that, because they only want to feel the highs of their spiritual practice. But if you're doing that, you're kind of missing the point, because literally, if you think you're a light worker, work is in the name. Like, we're here to transmute, to use alchemy to change the energy of the planet. And how do you do that if you avoid the very situations that need you the most, that need your kindness and your empathy and your unconditional love the most?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. These are the most important times. Spiritual people think that, you know, voting is not important. It's very important. Everybody, or at least here in the United States. I mean, that's for every country. The voice needs to be heard and counted, and but also, as you said, nothing should be avoided. If we're, like you said, if we're avoiding things, we're never. It's easy to be a light with 100 other candles. You find out really who you are in the cover of darkness.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if we are here to make a transformation on this planet, it's not so we go poof, right? We go poof when we die. We are all going to do that. It is to make a change in the physical, in the 3D world. We are if you want to call it 5-dimensional beings. We are an energy being that wants to have this experience to make changes in this physical world, whether it's for a simulation, some sort of video game, whether it's actually us helping a world to evolve to a spiritual level. Whatever it is, we chose to be here. And so to refuse to participate in the humanness of this experience is to rob your higher self of having that experience. It's like going to the theme park and refusing to get on any roller coasters. No, I'm just going to sit here on this bench all day and meditate instead. No, you're in the park right now. Like jump on the rides, have a corn dog,
Yes, get involved.
Absolutely.
And because in unconditional love, there's no one excluded from forgiveness, just as because nobody is excluded from love.
Right.
From source.
Yeah.
Everyone, all the children, all the creations of source are loved. They're all special, and none of them are special, meaning we are all loved equally. And in the mind of source or God or Odin or whatever anybody wants to call it, in this divine intelligence, it doesn't even know what forgiveness is in the mind of source. Humanity had to learn what that is so that we could love unconditionally.
Yeah.
So that means all the characters, all the players deserve our forgiveness.
Yeah, because if you're saying that someone else doesn't deserve forgiveness, then you're saying that you don't deserve forgiveness, right. Which goes against everything that our spiritual practice teaches us, which is that we have to forgive ourselves because we are already forgiven by the light. Divine already knows our heart. Divine already knows even when we're screwing up and we think we're 100% right, they know our heart. And we are already forgiven for the mistakes that we made. Yes, it's good to say sorry. And we should be self-aware enough to understand that. But even if we're not self-aware, we're still already forgiven because we weren't self-aware enough to recognize that we were doing the wrong thing. And that it's this, we are already exactly as we are supposed to be, wherever it is in this experience that we are, whoever you are. And to say that someone else doesn't deserve to be forgiven means that you believe that there is something that you could do that God would not forgive you for. And there isn't.
Right.
There isn't. Because you are already one with that. You are already that. And so what you are doing in the human may seem like it needs to be forgiven, but really it's part of what you're supposed to be doing and going through. And you made these free will choices to do these things. It's very much mind tangling when you start thinking about that situation, and everyone is a reflection of me. So those people that I'm arguing with myself. I'm arguing with that part of me that is refusing to listen to reason or not being kind, and I'm responding to that with my own hurt from that place when someone was not kind to me. And it becomes this whole cyclical arguing with yourself in the mirror kind of a thing, and all of it is pointless because we're all connected anyways, and it's all okay. And yet it is the very point. That duality of it is everything and it is nothing. It is the point and there is no point, It's fascinating.
Absolutely is. And So does it appear sometimes that we're that arrogant that we feel that we're more powerful than God?
I think it's always fascinating to see that. I think it's always fascinating to see that. And the thing that always gets me is expecting God or the light to do the thing for you, to do the thing. Or we talk about we're going to raise our vibration to do the thing.
Yeah.
Our vibration is already exactly what it should be. But we, the human issues, keep us held back. Those people that we don't forgive, those grudges that we hold, those hurts that we had, those lessons that we learned that create incorrect core beliefs, like nobody listened to you when you were a little kid, so now you think nobody cares what I have to say, so now you don't speak out, or maybe you speak out too loudly to make up for that. That pain is still in there, and you're always complaining about why you don't have. You have to let go of that stuff. You have to release that stuff so that your light can shine out. And that's what the Unleash Your Light is all about, is releasing and cleaning off those pieces of armor and those splats of tar and that stuff that we collect along the way, so that the light that already exists, that place where we are in complete communion with that energy of the universe, can shine outwards and affect the world around us. And it's always trying, it's always there, it's always pushing through, and it's always trying to get through to you. And it's us that gets in our own way. It's the human that gets in the way. We don't have to raise anything. We have to remove, we have to release, we have to allow things to go in the way that they're supposed to go, rather than trying to direct them with, this is what I want, and this is the color it should be, and this is the way it should be, and that person should like me, and this person should tell me this. Like, we're not the writers of the script. We are the writers of what we're doing, but we don't create the external except by what we are doing, right? So it's not really that you can say it needs to be a blue car. Well, pick out a blue car when you go to the lot. You know what I'm saying? Then you created that. But to choose that as your manifestation, you're trying to write what will happen in your life without seeing all the pieces moving. That's one of those things about manifestation that always kind of like twists me a little bit, because if we're trusting in the processes of the universe, and you say, I want a blue Bentley, maybe there's a limousine for you, you know, or maybe you're supposed to drive a bug because somebody that you're going to meet also drives a bug and decides that's how you meet each other. Oh my God, I love your car. And then you create beautiful things together. Like, to try to dictate where your life is going to go, rather than just allowing it to come and working through your passion and doing what you love. It's always that fine balance between telling the universe what to do and telling the universe what you want, you know, what you would like to happen, and then allowing them to put the pieces together as you are ready for them, you know. It's fascinating. I find being human very fascinating. I enjoy it very much.
Yes, it's always been talked about. Neville God has talked about it with the Bridge of Incidents. Every aspect I feel about all of us is a further degree, a deepening all of life, all of how much can we let go? Because what's the end goal? We want all these outside awards and attachments, but what really is the end goal? And the end goal is, I just want to feel happy. I want to just feel peaceful.
Right. Naked vulnerability.
Yeah.
And to be okay with that. To be okay with just being me, exactly as I am, with nothing to offer but my energy, who I am, how I speak, the words that I have, and not even that, but just to be, and to know that we are loved, and to feel that love in every moment is a goal, is the absolute goal in my mind. Now, the ride that we're on is all about then sharing that knowing with other people, because when you are fully aligned with that, you shine in a different way. You connect with people in a different way. you touch people in a different way. That's why you are able to touch people in the way that you are, is because of the way that you have aligned with that love for other humans, with that connection through that. The same thing that, you know, I speak and speak and speak, and I say a lot of words, but they come through me because the energy that I'm sharing behind all the words is, I love you. You are beloved. You matter. You know, you are loved. That's what's behind all the words. If I just said those 3 words over and over again, honestly, so for some people, that would be enough.
Yeah.
You know, that would be enough for them to start to release all of the judgments and the things we punish ourselves with, and all of the attachments, like you said, to external things and external people. You know, and yet we want to release those attachments, and yet having partnerships is such a huge part of the experience here, because that helps us to release, and it also expands our own light. And I think there's even like a Bible verse or something that talks about to pray in 2s, when you get together in 2s and 3s, that it amplifies your message. And that's why a room of like-minded people is so powerful. A broadcast with like-minded people can be so powerful for others to hear, and not just with their ears, but they hear it with their heart. They absorb it with their energy. You know, it's something intangible. It is an abstract concept that our words have no words for. It's that telepathy that once you're on that side, everything is, you know.
It's our shared belief. The thing, we live in infinite possibilities. We were saying that earlier. Alternate realities. Infinite possibilities means that the possibilities are endless, of the reality that we're observing right now. It's just the individual's perception, their beliefs. We see what we believe, and the reason why many of us see the same things is because we're all in an agreement.
Right, we all agreed to share this reality, but some of us don't agree anymore.
Right. This is a car is real, or to these human eyes. So we all, and that's why, as you said, a room full of like-minded people, prayer groups or meditation groups or celebrations, whatever they are, is so powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
The infinite mind, and it's double, quadrupled. It's powerful. And that's why I think, more and more of that needs to happen. Shows like yours, books like yours, programs like this are important to cut through the noise of what we're seeing.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of outrage, which there's a lot of merit for that. And a lot of the toxicity is coming up. And this is how we can, shine through that darkness.
Yeah, because it really doesn't matter what version of reality you choose to live in, because we're all heading for the same destination. We're going to die and transition and go back and go, oh, damn, I did it wrong. Let me do it again. Or, wow, I did great. Let me help someone else in their lifetime, or however it is that you believe that transition works. But it doesn't really matter which side you're choosing. What matters is how you choose to navigate that, the kindness that you choose to navigate this with. I'm always a really big proponent of keeping things simple. Like, to me, there are so many paths for spirituality, and some people believe you have to do it exactly this way. And if you turn sideways while you're meditating, then it doesn't work. And if you say the wrong word while you're manifesting, it doesn't work. And if you don't, stand on one foot and dance around, then you're not going to connect to God. Like, there are people that really, their way is the only way. We see that a lot in organized religion. Our version of the Bible is the only version that anyone that's real, and everyone else is, wrong. Right. All of that, I think, if it helps you, it helps you. But it boils down to loving each other, to being kind to each other, to being kind to yourself, to forgiving each other, to forgiving yourself. And that's what the Unleash Your Light is these simple things that we can do in just our regular life to make a difference. You don't have to do a million things, buy a million crystals, you know, watch 1,000 shows. You know, you don't have to do all that. Like these simple, you are not alone. Be nice to yourself. Be nice to others. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. Release your past. Set your mind. Ignore your feelings. That would be those pain-based reactions. And have faith. And have faith. Not faith in religion, but that knowing. Be connected to the universe and know that you are loved. That's it. That's it. I mean, if we even look at the Bible, what did Jesus say? I give you one commandment, love each other as I've loved you, because evidently 10 was too complicated. So right before he left, he gave one, you know, and that, even that we have complicated beyond what is necessary, because humans feel the need to build stories around things that they can't grasp, around abstract concepts. We are a singularity of a plurality, and our minds have a very hard time figuring out how to frame that in the 3D world that we're in. So keeping it simple, I believe, is one of the best ways, like you say, being your authentic self and speaking from your authentic truth. That's keeping it simple. That's keeping it simple.
Yes, the loving truth with, you know, kindness, the truth of, as soon as I know it with kindness and compassion, and as you said, many times, a part of that letting go, you know, our arrogance is that we think that we're in the ego mind, we think we're just as powerful as source. We're the ones that are, you know, that will not pardon the biggest villains in our story or in our cultural stories. And we can't let people off the hook because they don't deserve it. And we're not the ones that, and so the release and the freedom is releasing these people and giving it anyways. All the names, the Hitlers, the Epsteins, the Trumps, Bidens, the list could go on. They all deserve our forgiveness.
Forgiveness, because what they're doing is born of the pain that they went through. And if we take the example of Trump, and there's a lot of people who love him, and there's a lot of people who hate him. And even the people who love him say, well, he may not be acting quite right, even though his intentions are good. We can look at his upbringing through the eyes of people who were there and see how he was formed, see where his pain comes from, see why he lashes out and calls people names, see why he needs to be the tough guy in the room. We can look at Hitler's upbringing. We can look at Bill Gates and the way that he was brought up. Anyone, because we're having a human experience, the pain is brought from how we were raised, what we went through, what we experienced, and not necessarily the actions, because there's a lot of people who will say, well, I grew up poor and I don't steal, or I grew up abused and I don't go out and kill people. It's how we perceive them. It's how we perceive what happened to us that we create incorrect core beliefs and incorrect perspectives on the world. Incorrect, I put it in quotes, because for them, that is a very real thing. One of the examples I use a lot is, so let's say you're a little 4-year-old kid and your mother says, go clean your room. And then you go upstairs and you're playing with your Star Wars figures or your Barbies or whatever you play with in your room, and you hear arguing and fighting downstairs between your parents. And your father storms out the door and he doesn't come back. And now your mother's mad at you and she comes upstairs and she says, you didn't clean this room. What am I going to do with you? You are going to be the death of me. And because she's mad at the father, she's not thinking about what the child's perception of. Now the child may believe daddy left because I didn't clean my room. Daddy left because I'm not a good child. Daddy left because I'm bad. There's something wrong with me. And the way that this root, that one root incident grows up in our lives, it creates these insidious vines into everything we do. So it can turn into you being a perfectionist who has to have everything right and constantly beats himself up. It can turn into you being a nihilist, because what's the point? No one's ever going to love me because I mess everything up anyways. I mean, it can go up in so many different ways just from this one little offhanded remark or situation that you as a child perceived in this particular way, that you were damaged somehow.
Right. It's trauma forms. And if we don't do the inner work, all the work that you're doing for others, you continue to do, and if we're not doing the inner work, these trauma, these triggers, will still be placing value on suffering, on pain and sickness, and confusing weakness for strength. If we don't do that,
you're not really reacting to what's happening now. You're reacting to the way it makes you feel, because it makes you feel the way that you felt when Daddy left.
Right.
And so that pain you're feeling again, because this person is now saying they're going to leave, you're going to take that pain and apply it to the new person. Just like you meet people who go relationship to relationship to relationship, and they always go, well, I don't trust easily, and you're gonna have to work really hard to earn my trust. They're taking their pain and what happened in the last relationship, and they're moving it onto this one, and now making that person jump through the hoops without realizing they got their own hoops to jump through, and they're gonna bring you some issues, but it's not gonna be the same as the last person, unless you didn't work that out, unless you're bringing that same lesson over here. And we do that in our lives over and over again. Like I was saying, all time happens all the time. So that pain of Daddy leaving and you believing that it's your fault will be triggered every time somebody does something that makes you remember that. And you may not remember it in your conscious mind. Do you remember how it felt? You remember how abandonment felt? It can be something with work where someone says, I'm not doing this project, you're responsible for it now. And you go off on a 10 when it should be like at a 4, because it's work. You shouldn't be on a 10 for anyone in your work life, but it triggered that memory from back then. One of the shows I do is called Healing with Time Travel, where I encourage people to pay attention. Anything that gives you a strong reaction is an unhealed place in you, no matter what it is. So you want to think, when was the last time I felt that? When was the last time I felt that before that? Okay, when was the last? And you follow this emotion all the way back as far as you can. Then you sit down and you say to yourself, you know what? I hear you. I love you. You're fine. This was not your fault. You give yourself a hug. You turn to the person that made you feel that way. You know what? I love you. I understand. I have empathy for you. And you forgive them. The third part of that a lot of people don't do is you turn to yourself, the grown you in the space that you're in, and you say, I forgive you for believing that BS all this time. I forgive all the mistakes and all the relationships that we pushed away because of that belief. And you have to forgive yourself as you are now for living in that space of pain for such a long time. And it creates this release in you. And you might have to do it 10 or 15 times for the same thing. You might be able to do it once and move on to the next. But if you are self-aware and paying attention in those moments where you get triggered, those are the best times to learn something. Those are the best times to grow, is to pay attention to what pisses you off, pay attention to what hurts you. That's where your thorns are that are under the skin, because that skin will grow over and you won't be able to see it. I'll tell you a quick story. I know none of my stories are quick, but I'll tell you a quick story.
That's okay.
So when I was 17 years old, I had a car accident. I flipped my car. I was going, 120 or something. And luckily I was not hurt, knock on wood, but my window shattered. So my driver's side arm was full of little tiny pulverized shards of glass. So when I went to the ER later in the evening after going home and begging my parents not to kill me, they cleaned it off and they picked out the pieces they could, and they said, look, some of that glass it's in there. It's in there. It's in your scalp. It's all down your arm. But over the next few months, it's going to grow. It's going to rise to the surface. And it's going to hurt when it rises to the surface, but you'll just be able to pick it out yourself. You won't have to come back here unless something, seems to be infected. That's the way these things that happen in our life are. is as we go through life, they start to rise to the surface because it looks like we're fine. But those thorns, those shards of glass, those places where we were hurt are still under our skin, and they are infecting our ability to love ourselves and to accept ourselves and to love others and to accept others as they are. And so I always kind of think of that when I'm going through a rough patch, is that this is just another piece of glass. It's rising to the surface. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to keep like looking at it and paying attention. And eventually it'll rise to the surface. I could pull it out, give it a kiss. Thank you for leaving, and let it go, you know?
Yes. It is our greatest teachers, the greatest lessons. We can't avoid them. We typically do. People that challenge us, or we think we're not worthy of their love, or we have to face those avatars to allow it to heal. And it's recognizing that, you know, this really, you know, hurts me. I feel flighty. I want to fight. You know, I'm flying off the handlebars inside.
Yeah.
It's not a comfortable feeling. You know, anger or incredible sadness or despair, pain can erupt. But if we avoid it, we're never going to heal it. And as you said, you know, relationships or people or partnerships or teams or groups, whether it's a romantic relationship or not, they're the perfect situations to heal the wounds.
Yeah. Yeah, because the universe magically puts people in our paths that trigger us. Fancy that. Right? They always put people in our paths that push our buttons, that trigger us, that help us to grow. And once we recognize this person is here to help me, not hurt me, even if what they're doing is hurting me, it really shifts your perspective on the situation, and you're probably able to get along with them a lot better than what you thought that you could. And there are some people that you do have to kind of say, nope, I'm not having anything to do with you, but you have to do your work about them first. You have to forgive them. You have to forgive yourself. You have to figure out why this person is so toxic to me, because they're part of a pattern. They're part of a pattern, and the universe is giving you an opportunity every time one of those toxic people shows up to help you get over it, because I'll bet you are just as toxic to them as they are to you, and you showed up in their life for the same exact reason. Yeah. And you are robbing yourself of the opportunity to heal if you push everyone who pushes your triggers away.
Divine assignments.
Yes, indeed.
Divine assignments. If we avoid the assignments, we're never going to heal. But if we accept them and know that this is my perfect opportunity, the hospital for the soul. Yeah. But it goes, as you were saying, allow and trust. Let's not me be arrogant and be, I'm God or I'm source. And why don't I just allow and trust the perfection that created everything play out?
Yeah. That's difficult. We as humans, we like to be the pilot, you know, and in a way we are, but we also are not. And it's that duality, that fine line of you still have to steer your life. You still have to be accountable. You still have to do your work. You know, you have to prepare for whatever you do want to come into your life. You can't just completely sail. I mean, you could, some people can, and they're perfectly happy like that. And it's all about our navigation through this and recognizing that the GPS needs to be unconditional love. The GPS needs to be that alignment with empathy, forgiveness, and unconditional love. And however you get there, you know, and sometimes you might take a big old detour into greed and, you know, hurting people and being out for yourself, but it always brings you back. Even if bringing you back means that you lived your whole life that way and now you're on the other side going, oh, damn, I wasted a whole lifetime. Now I got to do it over. It's like grade school, doing these levels over and over and over again. If you don't do your homework, you're not going to pass the final. You know, you don't do your homework, you're not going to get to the graduation ceremony, which that's way beyond my pay grade. I don't know what the actual graduation ceremony is. I never try to like look beyond where I'm at and what I'm doing, you know. Sometimes they give me a little peek, you know, but for the most part, I just like, okay, I'm gonna do my part and just keep on speaking and keep on leaning into that empathy and that unconditional love, because right now, especially right now, all of us in the spiritual community, if you are even a smidgen awakened, you know that this is something big. You know that it has never been like, it hasn't been like this in thousands of years.
Yeah.
Even astrologically, which I don't really follow that a lot, but I have a friend named Brana who's really like, she's like studies it and everything. And even she's talking about how these are events that are happening astrologically in a way that haven't happened for thousands of years. So like we're on the precipice. And if we're awake, we have a purpose. If you're awake, your purpose is not to reveal the secret cabal. Your purpose is not to, you know, get Joe Biden elected. Your purpose is not to convince everyone to wear or not to wear a mask. Your purpose is to interact with every person through unconditional love, empathy, and forgiveness. No matter what your human is doing, you need to be expressing that connection to every single person that you're interacting with through all of this crazy crisis 2020 stuff.
Yes. See the light beyond whether someone's wearing a red MAGA hat or not.
Right. Right. Because somebody loves them. Somebody loves them. They have a family that loves them. There's someone that they love, that they would give their life for. Every person who is on the opposite side of your argument has a family that loved them or has someone in their life that, even if it's one person, almost everyone on the planet has at least one person that would give a shit if they died, if they were hurt. And so that means there is worth in them, even if you are not able to see it with their eyes. If you can't get with the, oh, they have a piece of God in them because they're doing bad stuff, recognize that somebody, their dog loves them. Like somebody, there is worth in every single human. Yes. And as the person who is awakened, it is our duty. It is our duty to embrace that piece of them. We can do it from way over here. Yes. But to energetically embrace that piece of them, because we can actually change them by accepting them in the space they're in right now. Because people do change. Yeah. Humans do change. We are evolving every moment of every day. And literally that seed that you plant, whether it's with a word of kindness to someone who expects you to be horrible, or whether it's just with an energetic, you know what, I love you. You give someone an energetic hug. You can actually start to change those people. We can try it in our own lives with the people you live with. When you stop reacting to them with the human and you don't give them the trigger that they need to play out their little hurt play, and you send them a little bit of love instead, now they have to change their behavior because you're not responding in the same way. You're not responding from hurt anymore. You're responding from love. Right. And that starts to shift that situation, both energetically, and it can shift it in the physical. It does not take much. We are far more powerful. We are far much more powerful conduits of the energy of the light than what we think that we are, than what we believe that we are. We have a lot more effect on the world than what we think we are. And if you are creating division, are you serving the light?
Right. Right, serving source, serving the universe. You know, of course,
God, Gaia, divine, Sophia, Gaia, Odin, Kali Ma, whatever it is. You know, the great feathered god. I mean, however you like to refer to that
Dave
God
Vargas
energy.
from Wendy's.
There you go. Whoever it is.
That's a god, the god of all. I know where I get all my my astrology expertise from Emily Blades. She may concur with the Wendy's preference, but it's, you know, A Course in Miracles talks about that. Sharing the miracle is I'm bringing with you, because we're all joined minds. It is about the bringing when we are forgiving and we're being loving, we're sharing the present reality right now, this connection, this beautiful divine connection. And we all feel that when someone has shared such loving, genuine, authentic kindness, it's a special feeling.
Yeah.
And because very rarely we're here in the now, we're looking at everything through the lens of the past. And that's a beautiful thing. It's how we can affect Martin Luther King, Gandhi, they all, you know, the practice of nonviolent communication. And we feel that we've, again, confused weakness for strength, of, you know, not letting, you know, feeling that we need to yell, scream, dehumanize.
Yeah, very true. Very true. If all time happens all the time, then all these layers are only happening right now.
Right.
It's right now. This is the only thing that exists, is this moment right now between you and whoever is watching this at the moment that they are watching this. And recognizing that moment in love as many times a day as you can possibly do it can really help to strengthen, to access the divine within each one of us. Take away all of the extra stuff to release all of the layers that we put on so that others can't see us. In that moment that we can turn our attention to the moment that we're in and just take a deep breath and feel love.
Yeah.
You change everything around you. You change the world in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You change the world in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Truly, that takes the real strength to take the social mask off, the avatar I want everyone, our type that I want everyone to see.
Yeah.
And the real strength is, can I lay this down and be vulnerable and really show you what, you know, we've all thought was weakness, but is really the true strength and the power.
Yeah, true.
Change.
True. I think about Amazons who supposedly rode naked into battle because that was their strength, right? Strength.
Yeah.
I worked at a nudist resort for several years. And I have to tell you that the clothing actually changes the way that people interact with each other. Because I saw people of all classes and all levels of society interacting with each other like it was nothing. You know, a police chief sitting next to a mechanic, sitting next to a person who was a judge, sitting next to, you know, a guy who was a bus driver. And they were all equal, sitting there naked, watching television, you know, drinking a beer together. You know, I mean, we are all the same, and yet we are all individual, unique, and beautiful.
Yes.
And it is that interaction and yet connection with ourselves, with the sameness within each other. Being able to be vulnerable and really show who you are, not who you think the world wants to see, not the you that was built from pain, but the actual true you, is such an amazing gift to give to the rest of the world and to experience yourself. And it is not easy because we've been raised to judge, but if you can do it, if you can work on it, if you can be self-aware about it, it changes everything, not just in your life, but it literally changes the world, because there one drop in the ocean we think is nothing, but it's made up of drops. And so by putting your drop in the ocean, you are changing the ocean. We change the world by sharing that part of ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's bringing everyone realizing we are the ocean together. You know, this is a beautiful, you know, almost a very important, one of the most important conversations that needs to be had, because there's so much going on and we need to push the white noise away and know how to transform it so that we can recognize how powerful of a light that we are. And that's why we were here today, to talk about your very popular book, to, you know, unleash your light. Yes.
This is my lovely little book.
Yes.
It is $2.99 in an ebook. It's very easy to get. I have a link on my page, and I have a website, unleashyourlight.org. But you can also get a little paperback copy. It's got little cute drawings on it. My son did the drawings on the book there. And they're throughout, so there's little different ones. I have questions that you can ask yourself at the end of each chapter. And it really is simple things to do to access that divine within you, to allow it to shine, you know. And you don't have to have anything. You don't have to have tools. You don't have to have anything but the willingness,
right,
to make real change in your life, to look at yourself in an honest way, and to embrace yourself and your true self, authentic self, loving self. It's all it takes. It's way more simple than people make it out to be. It's not easy, but it's way more simple than people make it out to be.
Absolutely. I agree with that. It takes the willingness. We have to willing to no longer place any value on suffering.
Right.
And that it does take that first step to no longer be that person that wants to suffer anymore.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad that you joined with me today.
Same.
And yes. And so they can find your book at Unleash Your Light.
Unleashyourlight.org. Yes. Or you can just go to my little Facebook page, and I have a link on my Facebook page there.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I want to thank you again, especially all your patients. You know, live didn't want to go right for us, but we did record this. I'm hoping to have this up as soon as possible. But thank you again for bringing your light with all of us.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks again. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.